Welcome to today's workshop. This is going to be about like how people who are considering a career in marketing can apply some new age effective strategies to break into the field. And for people who are already in marketing, how can you actually level up your career and find your next growth role within marketing? Marketing is obviously something that is very rapidly evolving. Every new day there are new concepts, new ideas, and how companies can grow, acquire more users, build a better brand. And I'm excited to have Vatsal Shah here with me. Vatsal, welcome, and thanks for coming to this workshop. Really excited to have you.
Same here, Arjun. Hi, everyone.
Great. So I will just share a bit about your background, Vatsal, but would love to know more, obviously, about your journey during this session. So Vatsal has done B.Tech in material science from IIT Bombay, and it's honestly quite fascinating to me, Vatsal, to understand like how somebody who's done that landed in digital marketing and headed marketing for one of the I think very successful startups in India in the gaming industry. As somebody who's working on his own startup, building a platform, trying to help people transition from one role to another, I think your journey is going to be quite exemplary for a lot of people in the room today. So I would love to, know more about that. And with that, maybe I can just turn it over to you to kind of take us through your background, how you decided to make a career in this field.
Great. It's going to be an interesting conversation, Arjun and everyone. So, as Arjun mentioned, after graduating from IIT Bombay in 2014, I joined Fractal Analytics. Data analytics was a key booming industry back then, and even it is today. So thinking of future perspectives, future prospects, I jumped into Fractal. Fractal was seemingly the best data analytics company back then. And so I jumped in there. Was there for 1 odd year, and then there was a startup bug that bit me in 2015. So I started my startup journey there. A lot of my batchmates from IIT Bombay at that time were doing their own startups, were pursuing their own startup journey. I've founded multiple businesses, and I felt that peer pressure to just join the bus, board the bus. So I boarded that bus. Soon after, 6 months down the line, I realized, hey, I'm not able to grow my own business. And the reason for that I figured out was probably I don't know how to market it. So I realized that marketing is the key ingredient, or at least one of the key ingredients apart from tech and product, that you need to build your business or to grow your business. At that point of time, I realized that, you know what, I need to learn marketing. It has to be there. From that point on, I started applying for different roles in marketing, and I landed up a entry-level role at Games 24/7. Games 24/7 back then had only Rummy Circle as a product, and I started marketing display advertising specifically for Rummy Circle. And from there, I learned the nitty-gritties of how to do marketing, what is marketing all about, and how to go beyond. So that is where I started my marketing journey in 2016, and here I am in 2022 as a full-fledged marketer.
Okay, cool. That was very interesting, and we'll definitely get into the depths of it in the coming few minutes. Nikhil, welcome to the workshop. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It's pretty ironic that I face technical difficulties because all I've done in my life is tech. So it's super embarrassing. But
it's Murphy's Law, Nikhil. It's bound.
It's not Murphy's Law. In my defense, Arjun, you sent me the incorrect ID. So like.
Oh really? Oh, my bad. Yeah, I apologize then.
No worries at all. And hey Vatsal, how's it going?
Hey, Nikhil,
and hi everyone else. There are a lot of people on a Wednesday evening.
Yep.
Yeah, so happy to be here.
Absolutely. So Nikhil, we were just actually, giving intros a little bit and talking about Vatsal's journey. He actually started, in an analytics field after graduating from IIT Bombay, and majoring in material science, and now he's a full-fledged digital marketer. So, similar to you, he has been a little all over the place and found his footing finally in this beautiful field. I would love to, just know more at a high level about your background, because I know you have also had similar kind of building blocks that led you to where you are today.
Yeah.
And, how did it all come together for you?
No, absolutely. So mine was also pretty like accidental, the way I kind of ended up in marketing. I was the black sheep of the family. My father was an IIT and my brother was a banker. And almost like paths were almost set. I would either go into the army because my father was an army person, or figure out like a banking career. But in college, I realized that's probably not what I wanted to do. Like it didn't really kind of reel me in too much. But I kind of gave into the pressures of the society. And in my third year in college, I got placed with KPMG as an internal auditor, would you believe it? So I was in like risk compliance and governance, and pretty much on the path of becoming a consultant. And I did that for a while. I handled industrial markets as a category. So I was kind of doing a whole bunch of stuff in like really, really small towns and small places, doing audits, both internal as well as stat audits for a bunch of different companies and huge, huge companies. I ended up doing a social audit for Inditex, which is the owner for Zara, which was one of my like all-time favorite projects, I think. But then one fine day, I was sent to a little place near Delhi called Hisar, and I was supposed to do a stock verification of a Reliance power plant, and ended up counting about 86,000 bags of cement by hand.
Wow.
And that's the day I realized probably not for me. Full respect to people who can do that, but on my way back from Hisar to Delhi, I kind of wrote my letter of resignation without a job in hand. But then in college, I always had like a little bit of a love for communication. I did like a whole lot of debates. I was in the music society as well. So I tried to kind of figure out my way there. And at that time, when I quit KPMG, my girlfriend at that time, she knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who was starting out in ad agency. And I was like, hey, let me try my hand at it. I think I can write, because I was writing songs. I applied as a copywriter, got horribly rejected. But then they said that, hey, we've got an opening for a client consulting strategy person. Said that sounds cool. Let me try and do that. And that turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life. I ended up joining an ad agency called Interactive Avenues, which was a 25-member ad agency at that time. Spent 8 years there, exactly 8 years, May 2010 to May 2018. And saw that company grow from 25 people to 500. Now it's one of the biggest digital agencies in the country. We got bought over by the Interpublic Group. So saw that transition of, from an independent ad agency to a global ad agency. Saw transitions of clients from like small homegrown clients to suddenly I was handling Coca-Cola's entire brand portfolio. I was handling Reckitt Benckiser. Ended up working for the Bharatiya Janata Party for 2 elections. I did the 2013 Delhi and the 2014 general elections as the media and creative partner. Those 8 years kind of course, kind of made me realize that this is what I want to do. I love communication. I love the whole high of creating stuff essentially. And in 2018, my client at Coke moved to Uber. She said that, hey, we've got a position open for social and content. Do you want to try? I was never a social person, but I said, hey, let me try. Luckily got through. Again, good decision. I ended up I joined Uber as the head of India social and content, then moved to become the APAC head of social and content, then moved to become the global lead for social and content. And in the middle of the pandemic, when I kind of took on the global role, I was asked to, because it was a global role, it kind of did not make sense for somebody to be stationed in India because of the crazy time zones. So I was supposed to either move to the US or Europe. I did not want to. Just like the pandemic completely changed my priorities. Felt family was first and foremost. Then kind of gave up the Uber role. Very recently joined a healthcare startup called Even, based out of Bangalore. And I joined as a head of brand, so kind of pretty much responsible for all things communication. So this is my journey. Tried to do a bunch of things. I also did like a few stints in Citibank because my brother was the vice president there. So he said, "Hey, it looks like you're never going to get a job in life. So let me try and place you." He placed me. I spent all of 2 months there and realized again this is not for me probably. But yeah, I kind of worked around my field in finance and then realized that probably the other end of the spectrum is something that kind of gels well with me. And here I am.
Got it. Wow, and it is so interesting, because, at Pivot, that's kind of what we are noticing, that a lot of people who end up transitioning from one field or role to another end up doing it in a very like serendipitous kind of way, like there is sometimes I feel like a mix of art and science behind the transition process. And sometimes you just happen to be at the right place at the right time, connect with the right folks, and voila, you just end up doing something completely different than what you were doing previously. So we'll get into how people can, I guess, add more science, more structure to their transition and find their dream roles, their desired roles in marketing. But I did want to call out this element of serendipity, which I feel like existed in both of your journeys, yours and Vatsal. So maybe we can, just segue into the next topic here. And just, for the benefit of everyone who's in the room, guys, we'll do Q&A towards the end of this session. First, we just want to dive a little deeper into, just experiences and insights that Vatsal have and Nikhil has based on their experience. So the first thing that we want to talk about, just the increasing number of sheer options, career options that exist within marketing today. I feel like a really vast field at this point. There are new strategies, new marketing channels being added every day. Earlier, like maybe 2-3 decades ago, it was fairly simple, straightforward. You had your, primarily branding and advertising as the core marketing strategies, right? Today, because of digital marketing, I mean, there are a plethora of other strategies that almost every startup, every company wants to adopt, right? You have your content marketing strategy, which takes up a lot of time. Then there's SEO, there's social media, there's email marketing. I mean, it just keeps evolving and growing, right? So firstly, I just want to ask both of you, and maybe Vatsal, you can start, just to understand better, like what are some of the key skills, in-demand skills within the marketing field today that people should be focusing on? And I assume there's no one size fits all. So how do you really determine like what is the best career for yourself in marketing field? What's I think you are
Sorry,
mute.
yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Got it. So as you mentioned, like there are tons and tons of roles out there now for different kinds of openings, positions, roles, or job responsibilities. But to avoid a lot of confusion, I would categorize these roles into 4 different buckets. So easy to understand, 4 different buckets. One, first and foremost, is brand marketing. That is the vanilla marketing that we used to do, or what Nikhil does now, or what like a lot of brands do. It is the core of marketing is the brand marketing. You need to build a brand around whatever the business you are doing. So Coca-Cola today is a brand. While they might be in the business of selling soft drinks, but Coca-Cola is a brand. Similarly, Pepsi is a brand. Unilever, Procter and Gamble, everyone is into building brands. Unilever builds brands. Tresemme is a brand. Pantene is a brand. So brand marketing is one such area where I would categorize few roles into a brand marketing. Second is performance marketing. Third is SEO slash ASO, search engine optimization or app store optimization, because these days a lot of apps are there in the market. And the fourth is product marketing slash growth. So four areas where you would categorize all the roles into. Brand marketing, I would leave up to Nikhil to elaborate on what all different kind of roles, etc. are there. For example, creative writer, content writer, or etc. etc. Similarly, in performance marketing is majorly dependent on how are you running, how are you bringing in performance. So what do you mean by performance in the first place? So performance is, let's say if you join a startup today And the objective of that particular startup is to bring in more number of installs or more number of signups. So your performance basically drives or the metric through which it is defined or measured is the number of signups. So whenever marketing is done with a particular objective in mind, which can be measured scientifically properly, is called a performance marketing.
Okay.
So while you can use channels like Google and Facebook for brand marketing as well, but there are like these channels are predominantly or also used to a great extent for performance marketing, where you measure the amount of spend that you have done, you measure the kind of results that you are getting, and you measure different metrics along with that. So performance marketer comes there. All the roles in performance marketing, be it managing Google, managing Facebook, running ads on YouTube, or you buy media buying or influencer marketing, all of them come under performance marketing. And obviously all of them also come under brand marketing, depending on the objective of your marketing campaign.
Okay.
Now there is SEO and ASO, which basically implies that if a person is searching for something on any search engine, Google is the largest search engine that we all know of, but there is Yahoo, Bing, there is other search engines as well. Uh, so if anyone is searching for certain thing on your search engine, and if that search is relevant to your brand or product, then your listing or your website or your product or brand should organically show up there to the top. That is what we call as SEO or ASO. So there are a lot of different skills that are being involved for a marketer who does SEO or ASO, and those skills culminate into a category of SEO or ASO. It could be content writing, again, it could be backlinking, it could be how you optimize your on-page elements, how you create a sitemap, how better you make your website or product for Google's bot to crawl, scroll, store information, and fetch information when needed. A lot of technicalities, but all of them culminate into SEO/ASO. The fourth is product marketing. Product marketing or growth marketing, I would say, is fairly new. Slightly overlaps with performance marketing. But what it essentially means is that there are two parts to it. So for example, let's say you all want to play a game, and in that game, you download the app, install the app, and start playing for free. But then there are various in-app purchases. You want to make a purchase of something. So then you become a paid user or a paid player. So a person who lands on the app store page or a listing page might not necessarily install your app or the gaming app. So product marketing is into how you can increase the flow of your funnel.
Okay.
So hundred of people, let's say, landed on your Play Store listing page or on your website. How many of them are actually going into the next step and doing the next step that you desire them to do? That area completely rise under product marketing or growth marketing.
Got it.
So
So
four
that
areas.
that was just in the interest of time, Vatsal, I'll just this was a great overview, and I think it should hopefully provide a lot of clarity and structure as to how to think about marketing and understand what all can be done. Nikhil, I would love your take on, I mean, since we now understand what all exists within the umbrella of marketing, like how do people understand which path they should follow within marketing? Like should a marketer like target being more of a generalist where you have a little bit of skills in each of these different areas that Vatsal pointed out, or should it be more kind of specialization, or is there some other kind of strategy to figure out what would be best fit for you? And I mean, I would like to link that to like how employer expectations are also evolving at time of hiring for marketing roles. Like what are they looking for? Generalists or specialists? What are some of the things that you're seeing from your end?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Arjun. I have to say, Vatsal, I think like very beautifully captured the entire ecosystem that currently exists within marketing, and it's evolved quite a bit. When I started in marketing, which was about 12 years back, oh my god, I'm old. At that time, it was a very traditional setup. It was if you were in marketing, you were either like Vatsal said, you were either a brand manager or something, or you would be in an agency. There was not really like a lot of these specializations that kind of came in when digital really boomed. So first up, I think the one thing that I do want to tell everybody is there is this misconception that if you want to get into marketing, you have to have a certain like kind of like there's an image created around a marketer, right? Like you have to be this like either a person who didn't score well in school, has long hair, has tattoos and stuff like that, or just thinks of themselves as creative. That's actually not the case anymore, right? Like right now, I feel actually marketing's evolved into like a little bit of an ecosystem within itself, where there is a role for everyone. You could be a generalist, like I'm a generalist, right? Like I have no skill in life, but I kind of became a generalist because I kind of learned a little bit of everything. And digital really, really helped me in that kind of things. But now we're seeing a lot of specializations being supremely in demand. And I feel that is the future. I personally feel that is the future of how this whole specialization kind of a wave is building up. Now I see companies building up entire marketing ecosystems within their own setups, where they'll hire social media people, they'll have content marketers, they'll have growth people, they'll have performance marketers, they'll have an SEO expert, they'll have paid search people separately, etc., etc. There's data, for example, right? Like nobody talks about data and advertising and marketing and how important it is. Analytics is a huge that I 12 years. If I were a Coke, I'd have no idea how my campaigns were performing until I figure out whether sales uptake is happening after 2 months after I run a campaign. Versus today, I can understand if I put a man on a creative versus a woman on a creative, if I use a dancing creative versus a non-dancing creative, if I run a static versus a video, I can understand everything and see what impact it has on my growth, on whatever my objective I've kind of set out to be. So stuff like that is also actually really, really piling up. We're now, in fact, even seeing marketing technology is a huge thing. So if you're a person who likes to code and doesn't want to say build a product, you can create marketing solutions. I know people like Uber, for example, had a whole MarTech team sitting out of the US who were just kind of building up tech stacks for us from a marketing perspective. So yeah, long story short, I don't think there's a dearth of opportunities. You just have to have an open mind within marketing as well, and see what skill you have, B, what is out there in the market, right? Right now, I feel the wave is kind of going towards a more specialization kind of a role. I personally, at the risk of sounding obsolete, I would say the brand manager's role in the next 5 years in my head would probably not even exist. 10 laga lo. Chalo, 5 saal nahi hoga, 10 saal mein to ho hi jayega, because the role that everybody now plays, everybody brings a very unique skill set to the table, right? I understand since the world of social media. I understand how Instagram works, how memes work, how blah, 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 TikTok used to work, etc. Somebody else understands the analytics much more than I do. Somebody else understands media planning and buying more than I do. So I'm kind of seeing that kind of a role shift happening. And I think it's good to find a skill. It's always good to find a skill. Not to say a journalist won't find a job. Of course, the brand manager role, at least I feel, will exist for a while. But I think the world will move to a more specialized way of approaching marketing.
Got it. So yeah, I think again, very insightful. And it seems like there is a transition underway from kind of more generalist brand managers who looked after all aspects of marketing, and now moving towards a world where specialization into the different sub branches of marketing is gaining more precedence. And I mean, apart from the the traditional work that used to happen in marketing, it seems like there is new kinds of fields that are still kind of being birthed, like data analytics within marketing and martech and all these things that you're talking about. The other side of this coin, one is the kind of skills that people should look at acquiring within marketing. The other is the context that you apply it within, right? So you have today different sub industries within marketing, right? Obviously, corporate marketing has always existed for a long time, since the 50s, 60s. Then came the agencies, right, where basically it was the supply side. You were providing services to corporates on their marketing requirements. Today, you have a lot of other opportunities in addition to these two, in the form, I mean, as far as I understand, I think in the form of, I would say quote unquote like startup marketing, which is less traditional and differentiated compared to, typical mature corporate kind of marketing. And then you also have a lot of freelancers today, right, who are uh, providing all kinds of services within marketing, especially I would say like content, paid ads, and social media. But there is a huge burgeoning kind of ecosystem out there for freelancers within marketing, right? So, Vatsal, what's your take on that element of the new kinds of environments and ecosystems that these marketing roles are gaining more and more precedence in?
So what I would like to say is that market is evolving, people are
Yeah.
evolving, people are learning new skills. Not only people want to do full-time job, but they also want to get the freedom of having their own business.
Right.
So we call it a gig economy or a freelancer economy. So we are slowly moving towards a freelancer economy or a gig economy, you can say that. How it benefits is there are brands or corporates who hire full-time team, and there is a team who is employed on a full-time basis with these brands. But these teams, they also need support, external support from these freelancers. For example, uh, while the brand or corporate might have a full-time brand team, but the brand team needs support in designing creatives. So a person who has a good aesthetic sense, who knows how to use Photoshop or other technical tools, and who is doing a freelancer might be able to support this brand team in making the making their thought or then vision come to reality.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, uh, similarly, a lot of times what happens is that a corporate or a brand needs to execute the performance campaigns. They they have analyzed or realized that this is the kind of performance that we need. If we spend $100, we need 10 leads coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So they outsource it to a performance marketing agency altogether. They say that this is the CAC we need and bring us that. So I feel that going forward, both are going to coexist together. Freelancer economy is also going to flourish, and they're going to coexist with the brands.
Got it. Got it. Nikhil, what's your perspective on this? And also, like, I mean, again, for somebody who is considering a role within a traditional corporate setup versus a little more, untraditional kind of these ecosystems, how do I go about, choosing the right path for myself?
Yeah. So I have a little bit of like nuanced perspective on this because I've had the good fortune of working in an agency and figuring out my life. And I started in a very like non-traditional kind of a setup, right? It was a digital agency in 2010, like nobody even gave a shit about digital at that time. But first up, I feel if you if you get an opportunity in a big ass corporate in the marketing team and you want to do it, yeah, take it. My suggestion is always for people to learn the ropes first. I spent 8 years in an agency, and it's not like I didn't get an offer to join a corporate within that, right? Like if you do a good job, your client will call you because there's always need for good people everywhere, right? But there's a reason I did not take up those opportunities because I felt I need to learn everything before I go into a marketing team of say like a Coca-Cola and actually be able to add value. I don't want to be one more person who writes, one more good presentation, right? Like that's not what my role is. My suggestion's always been I've seen like all great marketers that I've met in my life have had some sort of a stint in an agency, freelance, like they've done the shit themselves for them to really understand it. But from a freelance or this gig economy piece that that Vatsal spoke about, I come from Uber. It's the harbinger of the gig economy in the world. And with this whole setup comes, of course, a couple of things, right? One is there's a great amount of flexibility and the choice to kind of do what you really want to do. If you're a person who's pretty, I'm assuming everybody knows about the Maslow pyramid, but if you're in the top of that pyramid, right? If you're at that self-actualization stage, I'd say, yeah, take up freelancing, right? But if you're a person who's trying to build a career and you need steady sources of income, freelancing might not be the best as of now. It's getting better, to be very honest. It's getting better. There are marketplaces now available where steady stream of projects come in, but it takes a little bit of effort to kind of reach where you need to reach. So I personally do feel like there's a bunch to be learned, and there's this whole freelancing piece has quite a lot of future. I'm not too sure if right now I would suggest somebody to jump into that immediately and, like let your job go and just kind of do freelancing. It sounds really romantic and fancy. It probably the reality might be a little different. So just so you know, my wife is a designer herself, and she runs her own label. She's done a whole bunch of freelancing in her life. In fact, I used to get a lot of my work in my agency done out of her, because जब मेरा timeline नहीं meet हो रहा था तब मेरे designer से तो मैं उसके पास जाता था. But I've seen, right, like there is a little bit of a struggle in terms of, and I'm being just being practical, like honestly, like you have to pay the bills somehow. So there is a little bit of struggle there to also make your mark as a freelancer, right? There are freelancers who are sought after, who can charge a certain premium. There are other if I today get into freelancing, I'd probably be able to charge a certain amount of premium because I've been in the industry for so long. Or Vatsal could do the same with his strategic brain. But if somebody who's like literally just come out of college, they might not be able to get the best bang for their effort. So for me, like that's the only little bit of nuance that I would always keep in mind when you're looking at these things. It's a great way to understand and learn. That is the best thing about freelancing. You can learn a lot of things. You can experiment. You can fail and learn fast. That I think is a great play there. But yeah, and I've seen most big companies, they end up like getting agencies, right? Like freelancers, like it's usually like startups who would run after freelancers because the notion is that freelancers are cheap. So that's also a little bit of nuance that I'd always kind of look at. If you ever get the chance to join an agency, I would say like that's a much better place to be in from personally. That's what I feel, because again, in an agency setup, while you would join one department, you'd end up working with like 30 others, and you'd pick up a little bit of everything, right? I joined as a servicing person, but I ended up learning how to design. I ended up learning how to write. I ended up even learning how to code. I ended up learning basics of SEO, basics of media planning, because you of course work with so many people, this cross-functional collaboration, etc. I would always suggest that route. I feel like that makes really, really good marketers.
Sure.
But of course, to each their own, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of like, I worked in management consulting my first few years of my career. And I kind of can resonate with what you're saying, Nikhil, because, at an early stage in your career, when you don't have a 360-degree view of the field that you're stepping into, it's always good to kind of get that bird's eye view initially, understand what different roles do, what the career trajectory looks like for all of these different roles, and then make a more informed decision later on, whether you want to be a generalist, a specialist, or, carve out your own paths separately. So yeah, that resonates a lot. Maybe what we can talk about next is focused really on what specific job search strategies people should be looking at to really break into marketing field. Like you both mentioned that there are today a lot of different kinds of roles, right? So there are no dearth of opportunities, but at the same time, there are a lot of there's a lot of marketing talent out there, and a lot of people who are looking to break into marketing. And while there are a lot of roles, there are fewer roles for the best companies and the best startups and best agencies out there, right? So maybe Nikhil, we can just take your opinion on this first. What are some of the things that you guys are looking for at the time you are hiring for your marketing talent at your company currently, and perhaps at Uber also previously? What are some of the key things you guys are looking for?
Yeah, got it. So there are I feel there are two sides to this coin, right? One would be, there are roles which require a certain amount of expertise and a certain amount of experience, right? So if tomorrow I'm hiring a head of creative, I cannot, unfortunately, even if I want to hire somebody who's just fresh out of college or who's been doing accounting all their life, even though they might be amazing, but unfortunately the stakes are so high that I might want to give that role to someone who's done that in their prior life. Then the other part of things is which are slightly, say, lower risk roles, right? Where where people can afford to kind of experiment, and that will be true for any company, not just me. I'm assuming like even Vatsal would have pretty much like the same opinion, right? um, so for that, first of all, like you'll have to figure out where your skills lie, right? Like what are you actually good at? um, and uh, and there is also like a huge disclaimer I want to give to people. There is a world of a difference between what you think you love versus what you're good at, right? Like I love music. I suck at playing music. I wanted to be a musician and I absolutely failed. I love reading and writing, but I cannot write for like an advertising campaign if my life depended on it. And I realized that very early in my life. That helped me. um so first time, understand what you're good at, not what you like, what you're freaking good at. uh B, network the hell out of this world, right? Like that's helped me land a good job everywhere I've gone. uh it sounds super cheesy, but unfortunately it is the truth of the world. The more people you meet, the more people you speak with, and kind of pass on your intelligence to other people, they'll always remember you at the back of their head, and if they have a role suitable to you for you, they will reach out themselves. And get your LinkedIn game strong. Get your the world is social right now. I think the more you put yourself out there, the better it is. um, I Again, like, and if you're reaching out to people for say specific jobs, say for example if you've seen a job at Pivot and you want to apply, um, put some goddamn effort into that application, right? Like one thing that I've seen is a lot of people just do not put effort. Like it's the same cover letter that they've just sent to 1,000 people and they'll send it to you as well. And you can see through that bullshit, right? As a person who's been in the market for more than a decade, you can see where a person's put in some sort of an effort to get a role or to get at least a conversation going versus somewhere they've not. I've gotten people in my LinkedIn who've not even bothered to change the name, right? I've gotten Dear Hemant, and I'm like, who the fuck is Hemant? I have no idea. But put that effort, right? Like and for me, I joined marketing, and I'm a hopeless romantic about advertising and marketing because I joined it with sheer passion, and I want to see that passion in people, right? This is not an industry where you can survive without passion. It will not pay at the start. It will be a horrible, thankless job for the first few years. The only thing that keeps you going is the passion, because you want to see your creation out on a billboard, out on a ad somewhere, getting good results for your company. You're putting out an ad and getting $100 worth of sale is a high that you like, just like nothing else can give you that high. So it's a lot about that passion, and that should and that effort and passion needs to be like percolating down in terms of how you communicate and how you network with people. So like, yeah, those will be certain ways I'd reach out to. Figure out who are the leaders in your like list, right? Like build a list in terms of the kind of companies or places you want to go. Figure out who the leaders are in those companies and reach out to them. You'll be surprised by how many people will want to talk to you, right? It's not even funny. I know people who've gotten jobs at like literally at crores of packages just because they sent in a LinkedIn message to someone they thought who would be nice, and they struck up a conversation and ended up being fruitful for both of them. So yeah, don't be afraid. You'll be very surprised at how many people want to talk. Everybody likes to talk. So yeah.
All great pointers. Vatsal, before I just turn it over to you, I just want to tell everyone, guys, we will be taking up questions that Nikhil and Vatsal will answer very shortly. So if you have any, please write them down in the chat section. We are just going to get Vatsal's take on this topic and then move on to your Q&A. So please share any questions that you have. Vatsal, just kind of picking up where Nikhil left, in terms of doing cold outreach to hiring managers, to leaders within the company, and other new innovative approaches people are using to apply for certain kind of roles, especially within, I would say, startup and the corporate system. I mean, I came across an example where somebody did a free marketing deck for Zomato, just to get an internship, and it got a lot of attention and traction on LinkedIn, and to the point where it was published in one of the newspapers, right? So, I mean, obviously, if everybody starts to do this, it will just become unmanageable for everybody. But at the same time, there are these cool new things that job seekers are doing to differentiate themselves. What's your take? Like, as a job seeker, should I be doing these kind of things, or should I just follow the more traditional approaches?
So, as an employer, right? as an employer, if I'm hiring for a brand, and if I come across a person who has done his research, his homework, and not only that, he comes up with a few nice suggestions during the interview, bang on, like half job is done. Uh, the reason I say that is it's very, very difficult or very hard, at least today, for an interviewer to find the right fit. And most of the times, interviewers struggle or hiring managers struggle to find the candidates who are really interested in doing the job. So, as Nikhil also mentioned, right? If you were to, for example, let's say apply for Zomato, we saw an example, right? Everyone saw that example, that the person who wanted to apply for their social media role, right? That person created some really good memes or good content for which the audience loved, which the users loved, and hence Zomato hired that person. Now, that is one such example. Obviously, you cannot, that many things need to fit in place to create that level of virality or that level of content. But otherwise, with each and every brand, for example, if you are applying for SEO, all you can do is you can do a basic SEO audit for that particular brand. Go check, tell them about it. Like, hey, you know what? I did this audit. This is where you lack. This is where I feel that you can improve it, and this is what you can do. Now, this approach is obviously applicable to people who have experience in that particular field. If you are a fresher, obviously you won't be able to do that. But what you would be able to do is some way or the other demonstrate why you are so excited about that brand and why you are so excited about the role. That is very important. So if you are excited about performance marketing, then why are you so excited about performance marketing? What have you read? What do you feel the role is about? And why you feel that you would be excelling in that role if that person hires you? How is the life of that hiring manager going to be easy if he hires you? That is going to be the key. And obviously why you love that brand, why you want to join that particular brand. So if you answer these two questions as a fresher correctly, uh, I would say not answer correctly, because answering correctly means that you are preparing for something. I would rather say answer these questions to yourself. And if you feel that you qualify for that particular thing, if you love what you're going, if you are going to love what you're going to do, you should just go about it.
Okay. Okay. So we have a couple of questions here from a few people. I got one from Pooja, and hers is, an interesting one. It may not be directly related to just marketing, quote unquote, but she's asked that she's a freelancer currently, and she is helping people, kind of get jobs by writing their resumes, cover letters, preparing their LinkedIn profiles, those kind of things. As a freelancer, she's trying to understand how she can create a personal brand for herself, so that she can generate more leads, perhaps on LinkedIn and outside of LinkedIn as well. So I don't know if you guys have a direct answer to this one, because it's a slightly untraditional question when it comes to marketing. But, again, going back to that whole gig economy and freelancers, when you're trying to build your portfolio, what are some of the things that you can do to build your own brand?
Yeah, I don't think it's a non-marketing question. It's about marketing yourself. So it's a
okay, great.
bang-on marketing question. Yeah, I think personal brand, of course, is super, super important in today's day and age. As a writer, first of all, what I do is figure out what are the most important channels for you to get your leads and get your prospects from. If you were a designer, I'd say like create a sexy as hell portfolio and put it on Behance, put it on a bunch of those like portfolio websites and start like doing, there is SEO on those websites as well. Like there's a thing called LinkedIn SEO as well, for example. So ensure that your visibility and stuff gets upped in the places that you think are important, right? I'm not a resume writer, so I don't know what are the say channels people go to when they want to get like a resume writing service, but I'm sure there are marketplaces and stuff available. So figure out like how your profile works there. Second is showcase success stories, right? Like you're getting people jobs. Like I think there are like such good stories that can emerge from there. People who got their dream job, or people who were in a tough spot, weren't getting a job, but got a prospect because of the way you helped them. Um, just like showcasing your success in a humble, that like just kind of a manner where you're kind of putting the onus on the other person, not on you always. But like put those success stories out. That'll help a lot. And make a bunch of noise. Do your SEO. I don't think there is a shortcut to all of this. Personal brand building, any sort of brand building takes time, right? There's no magic pill that I can swallow and like tomorrow I'm a huge brand, right? Coke took 100+ years to build a brand. Nike took 30-40 years. Cred has taken, you can argue that Cred is a younger brand, but they've also taken at least 5-6 years to build their brand. So, and a whole bunch of money on it. So it takes time. It will take time before, your efforts reap the rewards that you want. But I'd go and say, start like thinking of those ideas in terms of how to, you have to differentiate yourselves, right? That's the only way you'll be able to build your personal brand. So what's your differentiating factor? How can you build those, or how can you showcase your success stories where people have like really benefited from your, your expertise? And yeah, and just start putting yourself out there a little more. Do a podcast about resume writing, right? Do a podcast about how to land the greatest resume ever. Stuff like that. You have to just think a little bit non-traditional as well. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like, I mean, as a freelancer and perhaps kind of as a, Gen Z or millennial professional, you have to look beyond just the traditional ways of, building your brand or attracting more leads or whatever it is. And, be comfortable outside of these non-traditional things. So basically step outside your comfort zone a little bit, right? And do things which might help you land these roles. So Vatsal, just another question that we have here is about, employers obviously receiving a lot of applications for each role. I think, we at Pivot have been hiring, and I'm a very, very early stage startup, right? I won't call myself a brand at this point at all. But when we post, a job opening, we usually end up getting more than 100 applications, even at this level, right? I can only imagine what brands like Uber and Games 24/7 have been getting. So I just want to really understand, like, what are some of the, some of the key ways to stand out when you are applying for a role, and what has at like Games 24/7? What are some of the things that caught your attention, at the time you were evaluating job applications for job seekers?
So even today, a lot of job seekers go through or just brush through the CVs. What stands out is, as Nikhil mentioned earlier, a cover letter that you have really, really made for that particular company, or a case study that you have really, really made for that company. There was in this throughout this career of my career, starting from 2014 to till now, and last 8 years, I have come across only one application, one job application that I received, which had a proper case study prepared. That person sent me a PPT file along with the PDF file. The PDF file for his resume and a PPT for the case study that he prepared. That showed the level of enthusiasm for that particular person to just know more about the role or do something about it. So if you really want to stand out, then you really have to work towards it, work hard towards it, of what the company is doing, what is the role for, what is the role expected to do, what are you expected to do, and how can you add value.
Okay. And I mean, apart from, the typical cover letter and, let's say, building a brand strategy deck, is there anything that you feel you're looking for from an experience standpoint for, specific kind of roles, like in terms of hiring freshers versus, people who have experience within certain fields? Like, what kind of things can they do on their resume a little bit to stand out? Because especially as a fresher, like, it's very hard to compete with other freshers unless you have just a better, pedigree in terms of school or your GPA or something like that. So
I wholeheartedly disagree on this pedigree thing, by the way, Arjun. I barely passed. I come from a shitty ass hell college, and had zero pedigree. I think what you said about building your resume and differentiating yourself from others is important, right? I could be bad at academics, but it'll be very, very very uncanny if a person's not good at anything, right? Like you'll be good at something in life. You'll be either a great sports person, right? That shows you have discipline, that shows you have teamwork skills, that shows you can lead contingents. You could be very, very good with, say, drama. And that shows that you have creativity, that shows you don't have stage fright, and you have great stakeholder management skills. You have to break down those things and understand how the things you've done in your life actually come out in real world scenarios, right? So like that, just get that whole pedigree conversation out the window, right? Like I personally absolutely hate it. Like I know I come from Uber, where literally I was probably the most underqualified person in that damn organization. And I felt really bad at, like, when I joined, I was like, hey, am I just like literally the stupidest person here? But then I realized it doesn't really matter, right? Like I've done fairly good for myself in the past 10 years, and I'm here because I deserve to be here, just like that person who did first an IIT degree, then an IIM degree, then went on to Stanford, and then did some PhD and went to the moon, right? Like we're both sitting at the same place. That means we're both capable. So for me, like, that's not the case. I think building and presenting yourself in a differentiated manner is important, and that goes back to my whole thing of make some damn effort in terms of building your profile, right? I feel today, and I sound like a old hag when I say it, but I see a lot of applications. They just do not, like, people feel that they'll just get it with the silver spoon, right? Like this whole startup culture, ऐसा लगता है लोगों को आपको plate में सब मिलेगा. It does, like, that doesn't happen. There's no shortcut to success. There is no shortcut to kind of effort. Put that effort into yourself. Try and break down your own life in terms of how the things I've done apply to real world. Like when I was a fresher and I was applying, I built my resume, and I was applying to an ad agency, for example, like the place I really, really wanted to get into. So I changed my resume. Instead of showcasing, hey, I scored 90% in school, I built it in a way where I put down all my communication prowess. I said, hey, I was the member of the debate team in my college. I have represented my college at an international level. I've done this, I've done that, presented with so many people. This kind of like hammered on the fact that, okay, there is no better person than this guy when it comes to communication, right? He's done a whole bunch of stuff around that. Similarly, if you're applying for a data job, if you're applying for a finance job, whatever that may be, you'll have to, and as a fresher, you'll have to build your thing custom to what you're applying to or where you want to go. Otherwise, and all these, like, अब तो वैसे भी मेरे को लगता है ज़माना चला गया pedigree का, right? People don't really, yeah, of course it matters. If you're a Harvard graduate, if you're coming from the Kennedy Law School, of course there's a different league you're in, but it's not like if you're not a pedigree, you're not get anywhere, right? Like, I'm an example. I don't have an MBA, for example. I passed my college in 4 years instead of 3 because I failed one subject. But here I am talking to people, telling them how to go into marketing.
Yeah. No, makes sense. I agree. I think, it's just that pedigree is still kind of a factor because so many organizations still, prefer that as the first parameter to assess a lot of candidates. That's not to say that a lot of, people who are not from the premium schools and colleges are not able to rise to the top. There are more and more of them, and thankfully so. But it's just that, there are a lot of organizations who take that shortcut to find premium talent from these high pedigree.
And that speaks more about the organization than it speaks about you, I feel.
Yep.
And I know that more and more new age organizations like a Google, like even an Uber, Airbnbs, Facebooks of the world, they're kind of coming beyond these conversations now, right? Like they will not have IIT, IIM preferred on their damn job description.
Right.
And again, like, I have nothing, of course, against IITiams. I seem like I hate them. I love those folks. They're very, very smart people. Whoever can get into an IIT is definitely 10 times smarter than I am. But I feel don't let the lack of you being an IIT and IIM person, bog you down, or give you that inferiority complex. That should not happen. That's a cardinal sin. And the more confident you are about your own self, people will see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
As good as
So
any
I think,
person.
Nikhil, we just have time for one last question here. And Vatsal had to drop off. He had an emergency. But so this one will be for you. But we have a question from Shikha. You can probably read it in the chat section, where she's just talking about, how she liked that you mentioned differentiating between your strengths and your likes, to really find the right role for yourself and, be real with yourself. So any tips around like how you can actually identify your interests and skills quickly for somebody who feels like they might be a multi-potentialite or, have diverse interests?
Yeah. Work with people who are better than you in your field. That's how I realized it. I wanted to be a copywriter. So I figured out a copywriter in my network and I started working with him and I started writing with him. And he very simply told me that, bro, I don't think you're a very good writer. You're great at talking, but it's a whole different skill set when it comes to writing. So like if you surround yourself with people who are more, you're more experienced than you are or more intelligent than you are in your field, that will give you a very good insight about where you stand. And again, you learn by experience, right? Like when I did 3 copy campaigns is when I realized, okay, probably not very good at copy. And when I did 3 brand strategy campaigns, I realized, okay, probably I am good at brand strategy because, hey, all these 3 meetings worked really well. So like I did a whole lot of fluke and like trial and error kind of a scheme. But yeah, a good idea would be to kind of like work with people in your network who are established, get some tips from them in terms of how you're writing or whatever you're doing, and how that kind of plays out. That'd be my one little tip. Be self-awareness. I don't think that's, अब उसको मैं क्या टिप कैसे बोलूं यार, थोड़ा self aware हो जिंदगी में, like you should know what you're good at,
Sure,
what you're
sure.
not.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like, but you know what? It's such a simple concept, but people don't take the time to kind of develop that self-awareness. They kind of go with the flow. But at Pivot, like one of the things we do is, do a couple of different exercises apart from your typical psychometric assessments, to really kind of brainstorm things like what you're good at and what you enjoy, what are your interests. I mean, they're very, very simple things. Sometimes you just need a little inspiration to uncover, what your inclinations are even. But it's important to take the time to do that, right?
Yeah. People just don't take the time for anything these days. Right? It's this binge generation.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
But I will also have to leave, otherwise I will miss my flight.
No
Folks,
worries. I was just going to
airport
wrap
doing
it
this.
up. I was going to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Nikhil, for all these super cool insights that you shared. And honestly, I just thought it was great to have you and Nikhil, you and Vatsal, because you both have had such untraditional kind of trajectories into how you got to digital marketing and have worked in different areas. So thanks for bringing all that depth and width of knowledge. Any parting thoughts? Any last few things that you would like to share?
Yeah, no, first of all, thanks, Arjun, for having me over. And I will say thanks on behalf of Vatsal as well. I'm sure he's also very appreciative. Also, thanks to literally all 30 odd folks who joined in on a Wednesday evening. I know it won't have been easy. So thank you. Just parting notes is just like marketing is a game of passion, I feel. So the more passionate you are about this category, the better you will be. And the passion never stops, the learning never stops. I till date learn from everyone around me. And as long as you have that learning mindset, I think you'll do kick ass. And if there's any specific things I can answer, please feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or wherever. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks. I will have to jump now. Thank you so much.
Sure. Absolutely. Thanks everyone for joining in. We'll be wrapping this up. And in case, any of you would like to discuss your specific, marketing related questions or your career journey, how you would like to break into marketing, please do check out our website, www.mypivot.work. We have Nikhil and Vatsal, who are industry experts for marketing field, and they have guided a lot of people into finding the right roles in this field. So you can have one-on-one sessions with them and get their personalized feedback on your specific questions related to your career. So thanks again for joining in. I hope this was helpful for you. And yes, please do check out our website. It's in the chat section. All right. Thank you. Have a great rest of the night. Bye, everyone.